I finally got myself the Noctua NH-D15 and I've read about it so much, everyone's been screaming about it. It's the quietest and it's the best non-water based cooling system. I'm going to be unboxing it, I'm going to review its performance in a very straightforward way. I'm not going to go too technical, I'm just going to look at how much it improves my current temperatures. Two tests. Boot it up in its current state, see what the temperature is when it loads into Windows, and then see how quickly it starts to cool down to a normal sort of range. Then I'm going to do something that I usually use the computer for, VR, and more specific, not just VR, but I use a piece of software called Libre, which utilizes a Microsoft Kinect camera to inject me into footage of the game. So the computer has to render the game from several perspectives. The two perspectives for my eyes in a virtual reality, and also an additional third perspective for recording an external view of me in the game. Does that make sense? It'll make sense when you see it, right? So all of that is quite difficult for not just the graphics card, but also the processor, and it's heating up quite a lot in its current state. So I don't want to mess around with water cooling because it's scary and I'm sure it's fine, but for me, I'm concerned about leaks or things like that. So I'm just getting this installed, which is the best of its kind. And at the same time, I may as well do this review to help others buy the right one for them, you know? So before we begin, we'll start by looking at the current setup and what has led me up to actually buying this for myself. So what I took out was the standard Intel cooling fan, and underneath here I'm actually using the heatsink that was here in a different arrangement, which we'll talk about in a minute. But this had a circular heatsink very similar to this in the middle of that, and that's in there now on my second setup. The first one was this, and as you can see, there's a lot of areas for the air to escape from here, and the fan doesn't seem to be very powerful. It's not very loud, and I tried to stop this by hand, and it was quite easy to do so. When I did that, the fan came to a complete stop and wouldn't continue to turn or try to pick up speed again. Even if I tried to help it along like this, it would stay stopped, and the computer didn't seem to care. So I killed the power straight away because I was concerned it would start to overheat, and then it was fine after that, but I was concerned about it, so I wanted to change it up for something else. So what I did is design my own setup. It's the blue area here, and so I took the heatsink that was in this and put this inside here, which you can just about see through the grill there. Now that allowed me to use the heatsink that was already there and put this crazy fan on top, so it's blowing a lot of air. The fan that's on there now is twice the amperage of this, same voltage, but it pulls twice as much power, and it's louder, and it's physically moving a lot of air, so I was quite happy that that is going to be great. I also put this arm on the side of the 3D printed object to allow me to put a second fan on to cool down the RAM, and that does help with keeping everything nice and cool around that area. So when I compared the temperatures of upgrading to that, I expected to see quite a large reduction in temperature. But unfortunately, the temperatures didn't seem to reduce by much at all. Off the top of my head, I think it reduced by 5 to 10 degrees. I was expecting a noticeable difference because the original setup was reaching temperatures like 80, 90 degrees, and it wasn't even overclocked at that point. So doing my own fan arrangement like this has allowed me to overclock it just a little bit. So in here is the Intel I7-2600k, and I'm also using some HyperX 32GB DDR2133 RAM, I think, off the top of my head. If I've got that wrong, I'll paste it on the screen. So it's only overclocked a little bit. I can't remember exactly what I settled for, but it's hardly worth mentioning. People push their 2600Ks up to 4.5 GHz minimum, and then beyond that for the people who get the really good chips in the silicon lottery. So regardless of the overclock, right now for our numbers that we're going to be working with, I'm going to not change any settings across both tests. So I'm going to do a simple boot up, check the temperatures, see how long they start to level out, run a quick test in VR, shut it down, clean up the processor, install the new Noctua NH-D15 fan system, install it all up, and see if there's a noticeable difference in the temperatures for those two tasks. We'll see where we go from there. So with the computer plugged in and ready to go for the first test, I'm going to do the unboxing first so it can be on the table here looking pretty. I should also mention as well the current thermal paste that's on the processor at the moment is Kryonaut Thermal Grizzly, ultra high performance thermal grease. And I remember getting this a while back because everyone said it was the best and the safest. There was another one which was liquid metal or something like that. I read that if that leaked onto the processor or any of the chips around the processor I should say, and then you can have shorts in there because of liquid metal, it's conductive. And I saw a video where somebody was putting it on and it was just rolling all over the place, and I thought, I'm not going to have any luck with that. So I got some of this because this was the next best thing and recommended by everyone, and I've had no problems with it. I don't do like a lot of overclocking and testing of temperatures, so I don't really know if this was better or how much better it was, but it was one of those things, cheap enough, just buy it and be safe in the comfort that you've got the best that's available. But today we're going to use what's included in the box, because it's probably still sealed and that's been open for a while. I haven't got much of that left. I want to use what they provide so that we get a fair review of what they provide their customers for the price that you pay for it. So let's put everything aside and have a look what's inside the box. You know, you probably see loads of review videos, and you know, it's their full-time job reviewing products and bias and things like that. I am slightly biased, okay? So if you're looking for an unbiased review, this isn't it. Like, I haven't got ties with the company or anything like that, but I've had my eye on this for a while, and it's been just slightly out of my price range, but I thought I'd treat myself to this because even though I'm kind of using it on an old setup, I can still use it on my next setup. So all I'm going to do is put new thermal paste on it. When it comes to changing it over, it's going to be like new. And apparently the fans are really quiet. So first thing is a box of accessories. Nice colour on the cardboard. So in here is, actually I'm blind at the moment because all I've got is lighting in my face. The window wasn't good enough lighting, so I put these two lights on and now I'm blind because I'm looking into the camera. So if you see me looking away a lot, it's me recovering my eyes. In here is low noise adapter, split cable I think it is, yeah, it's like a Y cable, and some clips, high grade thermal compound screwdriver, even though it looks like an Allen key. Actually it looks like a straw. And introducing SecureFirm SecureFirm tool. Introducing SecureFirm. Oh, God, I can't say it. Introducing SecureFirm tool mounting system. Yeah, feel free to use that in your video. And this appears to be the back plate for the Intel, and some other strange looking plate for AMD. A bunch of bits and bobs. Shall we have a quick look in here first? Yeah, you know it's a quality product when they spend a lot of time designing the box layout. And a little greeting card as well. By the way, this is the dual fan version, in case anybody's wondering. But I hope it is at least. Signed, Roland Mossig, Noctua CEO, lovely. I'm glad to know that he signs every single one of them. It looks like real pen, otherwise it's been badly forged. It really does look like a real pen. Can't sign everyone, surely. And I'm sorry if your name isn't Shirley. yeah, dual fan system. So we'll look at the instructions when it comes to installing it. So here are all the plates. So we've got these, and those are the AMD plates, which we won't be using. There's what they call a screwdriver. I suppose, is it an Allen key if it's got a Phillips head on it? Looks more like a straw, metal straw. And there you go, that's going to be the fun bit. In theory that should add some extra cooling behind, because it's metal, heat absorbent. And I guess those are then the Intel ones, because it's on the Intel side. So we will leave this in here for a moment when it comes to installing it. Oh, there we go, looks SecureFirm. I can pronounce it now. And there's this bag of accessories too, that's the cabling. And there's a little badge as well, by the looks of it. Can we see it? That's nice and thick, high quality. And there's that thermal grease. Okay, so we'll keep that aside for when it comes to installing it. What's next? Some foam. Cats are going to love this. They're all looking. Okay, so what's next? Everything is nicely layered in here. It's got like foam around it and layers. Almost as good as a princess layer. Don't sue me, Disney. And here appears to be the first fan. No, it's not. It's the second fan. I guess there must be one at the bottom. Why didn't they put that first? Yeah. So, oh, it's massive. It is massive. Right? It is massive. Like, it's bigger than I expected. I've never dealt with a fan this big. Seriously. So this is the one that was in there. No, this hasn't been in there actually, that's a lie. But it's the same size as the one that's in there. And that's it with the centres lined up. Can you see that? It's huge. It's massive. It really is crazy big, like, is it even the right one? Because it's huge. If it's that big, then the heatsink is massive. That's my fingers. It's so smooth. Okay, cool. That's really cool. Like, it really is cool. Okay. Well, I'm just gonna put that aside and get the next bit out. Anyway. There must be one attached to it, right? Yeah. In the picture. So that must be it. Like, the standard model has one fan in there, and then that's the second one. It must be already attached. I think that's everything. Yeah, empty box. Look at that. It's a thing of beauty. It's going to be so full of dust so fast. Unless it's like designed not to get dusty or something. I'm being so delicate with it. Okay. Cover on it, so just stand that up nicely. Oh, it's a thing of beauty. My cat is just out of shot. Okay, this cardboard must be to stop it from reflecting in the post. There you go. Okay, cool. So, how she blows. How she blows, because it's a... So, massive heat sinks. These pipes carry the heater. So this is the part that sits on top of the processor. There's a plastic cover over it now. And the heat is drawn upwards with these pipes. The heat then is distributed across these fins and there's going to be 2 fans moving airflow in, I think, this way. Okay, well the first thing I want to do is attach the second fan so we can see it in its full glory. Stand it up on the table whilst we're doing the first benchmark. Ta-da! There you go, have fun. So I want to have a look at how the first fan is installed. It looks like it's just 2 really easy clips that go on the side there, and I think I saw those in the box. So I'm just copying how they've done it on the bottom one, the one that's already installed. Looks like this just hooks in, and that's it. So I should have looked at the instructions first, but what I didn't notice is that these are pulled down quite tightly. So at first it looks like they just fold over, but it looks like you could add tension to it, pull down and then hook it in. So I'm going to try that now. Also, because it grips onto the fins, you get to decide how high you want the fan to be. So what I'm going to do is just roughly line it up with the one that's already installed in this direction. So you could have it down here or up there. So it gives you the choice then to avoid any fans that might be down here. And of course you could adjust the middle one, the one that's already installed, in much the same way by the looks of it. No comparison. If this doesn't result in lower temperatures, then I don't know what. It's got to do something, right? Okay, cool. So we've unboxed it, we've done most of it all together. Do you mind? I'm trying to do a video. Hi. I'm busy. I'm busy. Yeah? Say hi to the internet, Scruffles. Good boy. So, do you mind if I carry on? So now that we've got the Noctua Noctua NH-D15 setup. So now that we've got the Noctua NH-D15 set up and ready to go, let's first of all do the benchmark on the current setup. So we're going to boot up, see what the temperature is, give it a couple of minutes to cool down and see how far it comes down to just on the desktop doing nothing. And then we're going to play 1 round of BeatSaber and watch what the temperatures are doing as we're going along. And then we're going to install that, do the same thing again, and compare them side by side. Okay, great. Let's turn it on, see what the temperatures are like. Also, it'll be worth noting how loud this is at the moment. Okay, it's got 2 fans in there, the one on the CPU and the one that's blowing on the RAM, but then that's 2 massive fans. So it'll be interesting to see how they compare sound-wise. So, here we go. Let's get the TV footage with this phone. Okay, let's go straight down to open hardware monitor. So we're looking at, it's looking at around, well, it peaked at just below 50 degrees. So you've got the CPU core here, max and minimum numbers there, and then temperatures down here as well. I'm assuming that these numbers here are the sensors inside the processor, and then this up here is the sensor coming from the motherboard. Okay, so peak temperature 37.5 and 49, and there's the core numbers there, and it's come down to 30. We can see here that the pink line is the higher number there. It's going to be the CPU package there. and we can see that it's come down. Okay, so now what we're going to do is record that information using OBS. It'll be higher quality than what we're looking at here, and then we'll do some actual tests as well on how that performs. Okay, so now we're in VR. We're running the original fan. Well, I say original, I mean the one with my 3D printed Shroud. And we're going to look at some temps, so we can see that we're already reaching a maximum of 89 degrees on the CPU package. We're running the cores at 4 GHz, and we can see more on Task Manager as well, and we haven't even started the game yet. So let's play a game. I'm getting warnings coming up as well because I got the Asus Suite 2 installed. It actually says 72 degrees centigrade, so it's pulling the motherboard's account of the CPU's temperature. Alright, well, let's do a game. Look at the performance as well. And hopefully, we can improve on that with the Noctua. We won't go Expert Plus, we won't go too crazy. Oh. I left the curtains open, so it's a little bit laggy. That'll be the tracking. Right then, let's see what our temperatures are doing. So, yeah, 89. And on the CPU core package, on the other 77 maxed. You can see it's, in other words, a pretty fairly straight line. CPU usage is maxed out, pretty much, because all of this is a demanding task, you know. It's you look across the edge of my skin, it's like crawling because it's like editing the picture and stuff, and it doesn't like black colours on the side of the Oculus. You can see there's like a hole in the head. Oh, unless I turn that way, it might be the reflection. Anyway, so we've got a benchmark set for temperatures. It seems to be not letting it go over 90. Oh, not 89 even. So let's install the Noctua and see if we can lower the temperatures. Maybe even lower them enough so we can overclock the processor. Okay, so the computer's switched off and we're letting it cool down. It's been cooling down for about 10 minutes already. Must have been setting up the next video. But to make it easy to work on, I'm going to unplug everything. So we're going to turn the power off, drain anything that's left. So it looks pretty straightforward. Take off what's on there, clean everything up, clean the processor to get the thermal compound that's already on there removed so that the new thermal compound can take over. So let's have a brief look at the instructions. So we don't need AMD. These are all different instructions for different types. 115X, I think that's ours. Lovely colourful instructions. Maybe worth showing you this. This is my 3D printed version. So there's the original heatsink that just slots into there. And that's being held down with the original clamps from the piece you saw earlier on, big fan, and then an arm that goes across to hold this fan that points down to the RAM. But it didn't do as well as I thought it would. Okay, so the process is back in, it's all nice and clean, and I'm quite happy with that result. So the next step is to put it in, move it around, and see if it fits in, and check for any obvious problems, and decide which direction I'm going to have the airflow. Am I going to have the air pushing out this way, or towards the rear, where this third fan can help with the airflow? I haven't decided yet. Let's try this way around first. Be careful not to drop it. And I'm holding it by the metal parts, because the fans are only held on with these little metal pieces we saw earlier on. So I'll always hold it by the metal parts. So the first thing I can see, this fan is definitely colliding with the RAM, but I can slide the fan upwards just by opening the little clips on the side and moving it on to fins just above. Or I may decide to mount it the other way. Let's have a look how well that looks. Well, as you can see, the fan is right up against the graphics card. I might move the graphics card down if I decide to go for this option. There's no way I'll have it running whilst it's that close. So since I'm not using any of the other bays, I might do that if I decide to go for this direction. Because if I put it back the other way, as we know, this is going to conflict with the RAM. But if we move it up, it's starting now to get too tall for the case. So if we look this way, it's pretty close as is. So if we have to move this fan upwards, then we're going to have a height issue. So I might have to mount it in its current position and move the graphics card down. Looks like good clearance there, assuming it's in the exact correct position. So I think I've decided what I'm going to do. I think I'm going to keep it in this position where the airflow is going this way. And I'm going to have to move the graphics card down to accommodate that. Okay, so with the graphics card moved down a slot, we've now got a lot more room to play with. So let's get it back in there. I'm just going to make sure I can get the case on. Yeah, it's fine. It's okay. Cool. So I'm happy with that. So now that we know which way that we're going to be mounting this one, we can refer back to that instruction booklet and see which way the bracket needs to go on, because if we remember from earlier on, we've got to install it in a certain orientation. So I think, looking at it, for orientation B, which is what we're going for, depends on which way you're looking at the motherboard, right? But I think they mean this direction. That means that our C-shaped front bracket pieces need to be on either side here. At least that's what we're going to go for and see what happens. Let's get all the parts together and see what we can do. So this is the SecureFirm for LGA115X, and you can see it's got this lip on there. Yeah, you can see that. So that's got to be in line with the clamp for the processor. So yeah, that needs to be pointing upwards. And let's have a look. We've got the spacers and thumb screws. Where's those going in? I'm just checking how to then attach that to the bracket once the bracket's installed. It's actually only 2 screws, and it looks like I have to pull out the middle fan, screw it in, and then put the middle fan back in. So I think the next step is to take the back of the case off, make sure everything is okay there. I went to get a screwdriver just now, forgot about that. First thing I want to do is remove this fan that was in the way, and I couldn't pull it out because this cable was jammed. That wasn't plugged in earlier on, by the way. That was just sitting there unplugged. It was quite a noisy fan there, and it wasn't doing very much. So when we were looking at the noise comparison, we're not one fan down now. Okay, so there's the back of the processor, and that notch needs to be in line with that bottom one. So let's just slot that in and see what that looks like. Nice. Nice and snug. May as well just go ahead and put everything on. Right, so these are the 4 spacers. These are the 4 thumb screws. I think they said sun screws or something. And then these things, I don't really know what they are. They might be something to do with the AMD version. Or we'll get to them at some point perhaps, I don't know. So, spacers on. Do you mind, pussycat? I have a camera over there, you know. Before I put those on, just going to double check. Right, yeah. So the orientation this way around, that way around, is so that those screws line up the 2 screws on the actual heatsink. So I can see now how it's going to work. So those are going to be in like that. Oof. And that makes those sideways. Yeah, that makes sense, right? So I think I'll just put them in. I guess so, right, okay. So we get 2 spacers, 2 of those. Right, here we go. Okay, so I've put the back plate in, and I'm just holding it there like that to make sure it doesn't fall, but I don't think it's going to fall. So now, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to start with this side first. So I'm just going to hold that with my right hand. Now, already dropped the spacer. I don't know if it matters which way around they go. They kind of feel different on either side. I don't think it matters. It's just how it was made in the factory, I think. That goes on there. And this goes on with the curve facing outwards. And it seems like that has got several positions on each side. There. See, like 3 spaces. It's like one long hole, it might look like, but there's actually 3 mini holes. My motherboard is centered up by itself almost into the middle holes, and it doesn't want to move either way. Right, let's get the thumb screw on, and I'm not tightening that down all the way, just enough to take up the looseness until I get the second screw on, so everything lines up neatly. Okay, that's tightening up, and the same for the other side. I'm not too sure if it is. Oh, that heatsink is in the way. Is that good? You think so? Wow, I only just managed to get that on. Yeah, I think that's okay. I'll show a close-up of what I struggled with there. So on the top side, that little corner piece, just touching the blue there. And now it's okay, but it was kind of wedged for a moment. It looks like there's a big gap there when I do this. But at first, it wouldn't go in. But then I pulled it off and sort of leave it in, and it got itself in there. And I thought it was going to be a problem. But I'd have been filing this down just to make it fit. Anyway, we're good. And just to make it easier, I'll put it in this way. You should be doing it laying down anyway, so that things don't get lost. I'm only doing it upwards for the camera to be able to see. Okay. So here we can see it's installed. Well, the bracket at least. The point is we need these two bits here. I just hope that this isn't going to be in the way now. Hopefully it should be okay. Okay, so for us, we really aren't going to be needing those pieces. So now we want to remove this middle fan. So I'm remembering to keep this plastic cover on for as long as possible to keep the pad clean. And let's see how easy it is to do this. So in theory, just snap these back. And on this side. And up it comes. Painless. And now we can access the screws here and here, which will tighten it down onto the processor. We should probably put it in dry just to make sure everything lines up. Because the last thing I want is to apply the paste, then try to put it in and realise there's a problem that needs to be solved. So I think we'll do a dry run first. And for that, I'm going to turn this on its side because it's going to be almost impossible to do it upwards. Pop that off because we won't be able to get it lined up at all. That plastic in the way. And let's remember which way we're going to do it. So it's going to be that way around. Yep. Keep the cable out of the way. Yeah, that appears to be okay. I tell you why I'm being so cautious, is first of all it's expensive. I don't want to do it wrong or damage anything. But I'm also finding it too easy. Like, I'm being overcautious. You could do this in 10 minutes. You just slap it out, put the bracket on, slap it on, it's done. But I'm just being really careful. So I've just done the test there and everything seems to line up fine. So next step now is to put on the thermal paste that came with it. Instructions say to do 4 to 5 millimeters in diameter of a blob on the middle of the processor, and then that should spread out then as we put the heatsink onto the processor. It even comments that too much can actually be counterintuitive. going to be proud to put that on the front of my case soon. Alright, so what I'm going to do is push some of this out onto a piece of paper so that you can feel how tight it is. Like sometimes when you go onto the processor for the first time and you push it out, and you're like, oh, it's a bit hard because it's got stuck in the factory or whilst it's been on the shelf. So it's good to push past that in case you just shoot too much out on the top of the PSU. On top of the CPU. Yes, we work with the CPU. Yeah, you don't want to squirt your load, or you don't want to squirt all of this onto the processor in one go, so test it on a piece of paper first. Giggity. Such as a post-it note, and the brands are available. Okay, so this looks like it's coming out as a nice smooth movement. There's a really good seal on that as well. I was just looking at this. This is a really good seal. You can even see the screw positioning sort of thing that's inside there. I can't see it from there. And it is a thick, gooey compound, as opposed to others like the silver ones. They run everywhere. Like you'd roll that off and it would run. But this is quite sticky and gooey, so it's not going to be out of control when it's on the CPU. Yeah, I think we'll record that because it's kind of important. If you are following along as an installation guide, I may as well show you how to put the thermal compound on. So there's the processor. I'm looking at a ruler just for a visual estimation of what 5mm looks like. And I'm going to put it directly down, almost directly down into the middle. And that's good enough for me. I'm also going to back this off slightly. So, pretty hard to see what I just did there. Come on, there we go. So I pulled this back slightly just to suck back in the little dregs that have started to come out there. So it keeps for longer. And whilst we're here, I may as well show you that screw mechanism. You can see there's a thread on the inside of that. And you can see that that's where the hole is. Well, this piece screws into that like a cap, and the seal is on the outside and the inside. And if you're ever looking for thermal grease or whatever, this is a pretty cool one. Let's have a look at NTH1 thermal paste. So there it is. It shouldn't really be exposed to the air for any longer than it needs to be. I'll probably go around the other side to install this. So I don't need to fit you with the camera. Here I go. So I'm coming down at a vertical motion and I'm looking right down at where the screws are meant to meet so that I don't end up dragging it side to side after it makes contact with the paste. I want to push it out evenly as I push it down. 3, 2, 1. And that is now resting, but the screws aren't pulling it down, so I'm just holding that in place. Hopefully the screws will give me some help here. Can't quite see where they meet. I don't know if that's in. Come on, catch. Let's try the other screw first. It might have actually been on the thread, but I couldn't feel any tension yet, and I don't want to pull it up. Okay, now I can feel tension on this screw, I think. Yeah. Come on, this one isn't catching. Yeah. The springs on the screws, you see, so I'm sort of up against that. Oh, I can't get it to catch. Right, okay. I was being too delicate again. I needed to push down against that screw for it to bite. And because I'd already done this side, there was a little bit of pressure going the other way. So now, we're going to start tightening these. You don't want to do one side all the way. You want to do it a few times and then swap back and forth so that there's an even amount of pressure so that the thermal paste spreads quite nicely. Before I tighten all the way, I'm just going to give this a little shake side to side, just so that the thermal grease has a chance to get into all the areas it needs to get into. Okay, so that is everything screwed in. Now what I want to do is look around to see if there's anything that could cause a problem. For example, are those pipes touching the ram sticks? And I don't think so. In fact, there's a pretty large gap there. Okay, now that that's installed, we want to put back in the middle fan. I'm just trying to see if I'll be able to reach to get the cable inside. So let's have a look what cable first. Low noise adapter, I don't fancy that. Low noise adapter, I don't fancy that. And this is just the Y cable. Fine. So we want to get that into the motherboard. And then those cables are going to come around and plug into the tops of this. So just to make it easier, let's plug that one in first. Never dealt with a heatsink this big before. Okay, so that's on. And we'll just tucking the cables away so that they don't interfere with the fans or the airflow. And now I'm going to drop in the middle fan back into place. Oops, see what I did? That's the wrong way. That would have been a problem. Set that cable out of the way. Now, how am I going to get this back on here? On this side? Let's worry about that in a minute. Let's get one of them on first. It's not too hard, I might just be able to do it with this L shape. Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Pretty. Making sure that's on. Nice. Very nice. Nothing blocking those. I think that's a successful install. I suppose I should plug that second fan. Okay. And again, I'm just going to tuck these cables out of the way. Alright, well, I think that's it. Well, that's the install complete. Let's plug everything in, ready to test it out. Okay, so it's the next day. I had to go to a doctor's appointment after the last footage you saw. I haven't even had a chance to turn this on yet, so all this time I've been waiting to get my hands back onto this. So, let's crack on. Now my cables won't reach unless I put it there. So let's plug it all back in and turn it on. Okay, very exciting moment for me. Are the fans going to spin? Is there enough pressure on the CPU to make sure that there's enough heat transfer? Otherwise the CPU is just going to boil into there. Alright, I'll press the button. They look like they're turning slow on the... Okay, so I don't know what that beep is. Okay, well this is where the fun bit comes in, right? Is diagnosing what the beeps were. Okay, well that's not so surprising because there is a Y splitter cable. By the way, it's silent, isn't it? There's no sound. Okay, well let's see if there's anything obvious. By the way, there's my overclock. It should be on, I think, 34 and it's on 40. That's all I've done, really. Right. I can see what it is. Let's play with the settings and see what happens. First of all, let's turn it off. I want to set my fan at maximum. Turbo. Maybe we need to set that to, oh well, see 300 then? No, let's see 200. It shouldn't be lower than that. We don't have a chassis fan anymore. Let's save that and see what happens. I'm expecting it to scream loudly, but I don't know, maybe it'll be really quiet. I have no idea. No change. I'm going to go back in just to see if anything's updated there. Okay, so it's not red anymore, so it's not complaining. I'm looking for the option that just sets it to maximum constantly. Manual? Right. And then I enter in, so let's look, upper, lower temperature 20, duty cycle to 100% then, 2 amps. Yeah, 100. Alright, let's just see what that does. And now we can hear it. It's so quiet. That's ridiculous. So that is now at 100%. It's so quiet. Oh, I've missed the button. See, it's gone quiet again. And then it's there, so. It's so quiet. I don't even know if it's going to be picked up on the microphone. Oh, I've missed the thing again. Oh, I got it. What RPM is that? So it's reporting an RPM of 1500. And for the hell of it, let's have a listen to what it sounds like with the side off. I forgot. Lovely airflow. There's cold air coming up here. Yeah, it's all cold air. So, now I'm going to do something crazy. I'm going to very carefully do something that I don't recommend anyone ever do, not just for personal injury, but you might damage your product. So, I'm just going to feel how strong the fans are. I've done this a million times. I'm going to gently roll my thumb around the edge here until I start to feel a very gentle contact, and just to feel the strength. Okay, that's starting to hurt then. They're powerful, they're really powerful. I'm really not concerned with that. And the second test is just to touch the centre of the drum. Don't forget that is going to be the strongest point for the blades, so you must not touch the blades at any point. Put my thumb here to give my fingers some control. Okay, that's good. Yeah, I'm well impressed. Very high quality. Now some If you bring them to a stop like that, as you can see, this didn't pick up by itself, but then I spun it and it's picked back up to where it should be, which is very impressive. Passed with flying colours. It's pretty cool. I'm impressed. Let's see what happens when we allow it to boot up into Windows. Also, out of fairness, I should probably put this back down to, hang on, I can't remember. I'm going to need to check the footage to know what number that was set to before I change it. And the reason I want to get this right is because we need to do a fair test and I don't want to change any settings. Okay, so I've checked the footage and the CPU fan profile is standard. That was 600, this was enabled. It doesn't matter, we'll leave it disabled because I no longer have a chassis fan. Otherwise, that is all the same, yeah, 100%, right. Complaining again that the fan is below 600. Alright, okay, it's gonna force me. Okay, but let's be honest, that's not gonna change the test. Right there, here we go. Well, I can see that the resolution has changed, and that's probably because the graphics card has been moved into a different slot. Where are we there? 45 degrees. That's what's reported by the core. Motherboard reports much lower, 10 degrees lower. Okay. So my screen went blank then, and I'm guessing that it's still installing drivers for the graphics card that's moved to a different slot. It also mentioned that the Connect has been installed, which means I might have accidentally plugged it into a different USB slot, so it's just doing all of that stuff. So as you can see, I've taken some time to lay out OBS Studio so that we can record everything, and we've been able to see what the temperatures are like whilst I've been making these arrangements. So in other words, the temperature of the computer through normal desktop use without anything too heavy being thrown at the CPU. So I've now clicked record on OBS, so it is now recording footage to the hard drive. So now we're going to give it an intensive task, which will start off small, which is loading up the Oculus software, and then we'll get right into BeatSaber, which is going to be the biggest task for this processor, and then we'll see how the temperatures are affected. It's also worth noting that I'm currently using Splashtop to remotely access the computer, which for now just makes it easier for me to interact with the computer. I'll definitely be turning off the remote access when doing the temperature test for BeatSaber, since it's quite a CPU intensive task to remote access the computer, so we don't want that to interfere with any of our temperature readings. Okay, let's open OBS and look at how the temperatures may or may not start to climb. And let's open Steam VR. We can see here that the CPU load started to increase and the fan speed started to increase as well, and there's been only a small bump in the temperatures. So far we've only reached a maximum of 52 degrees reported by the CPU and a maximum of 40 degrees reported by the motherboard. And I just saw a warning disappear. I think that mentioned something about the voltages. And let's open Live, the mixed reality software. I can't decide where to put this. Okay, let's launch BeatSaber. Okay, so I just want to say at this stage, we're giving the computer already quite a difficult task. I'm still remotely accessing the computer. That in itself uses a good chunk of the CPU's processing time. And I'm also recording with OBS Studio. I've got BeatSaber running. As far as the computer's concerned, even though I haven't put the headset on yet, it's still rendering the game, since we're currently looking at two perspectives. In OBS you can see it's recording BeatSaber's viewpoint from the VR, and it's also got the larger area which is the second perspective, and the Kinect camera is managing to get my cats in view. So now I'm going to turn off the remote access. We should see a little drop in the CPU usage, and I'm still really chuffed to see that the temperatures are still remaining quite low, or at least low for what I'm used to on this setup at this stage. Okay, well, I'm about to test it out in game, and I'm quite chuffed to see I've been wearing the headset now for a couple of minutes whilst I've been doing sound checks, making sure OBS is recording. So during the gameplay I won't be able to see the temperatures. And we've got to fix that. I'm not going to fix it now because that's not going to affect performance or our tests. It'll just look weird in the game, but at least we'll get our temperature reading. It's just these aren't going to line up with my hands. Come on, I'm not playing. Come on, move. Alright, let's do this. Roy! Nah! Nah! No, no. Whew. Ah! 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 I'm not used to this on Expert Plus. Definitely not used to doing that on Expert Plus. Okay, let's see what those temperatures are. Look at that. It hasn't gone above 60 degrees. And it was 89, and it wouldn't go above 90, wasn't it? It wouldn't touch 90, and this won't touch 60. So I can officially say that that is a 30-degree improvement. Have I done my maths wrong there? 5, 6, 7, 8. No, it's actually improved by 30 degrees. 30 degrees. You could wash your clothes at 30 degrees. Well, if you want to know how much one of these will cost you, check the link in the video description. I've put a link there. Get yours today! Well, anyway, I don't know what else to add to it. It's clear cut, it's right there. And then I sort of trust the processor's account of its temperature more than what the motherboard says, right? Because the motherboard is sort of an external temperature sensor somewhere around in the area of the VRMs, I guess. I don't really know, maybe it varies per motherboard, I don't know. But what we can be certain of is that figure is coming from the processor itself. And off the top of my head, I don't know how much they've improved, but I will probably paste something on top of this to show the comparison. I just realised you guys can't see what I'm circling with the mouse, but I'm talking about the motherboard's report of the temperatures. So I don't know the motherboard temperatures on the previous test off the top of my head, but I can remember that the processor's account of the temperatures was not wanting to go above 89 degrees. And this now has got a really difficult task. Something weird's happening in VR and it's sort of like following my head. I'm kind of distracted by that. I don't know if it's doing the same thing for you. Anyway, and that graph, let's have a look, last 5 minutes. Yeah, the load has varied just below 90. Fan control, what did that go up to? Oh, apparently the fan reached 65,000 RPM at some point. When was that? There. 17.5 minutes ago. Did it go anywhere else? Don't think so. Oh no. Oh no. It must have been a glitch. I don't know what that is actually. I will Google that to figure out why there's a report that the fan reached 65,000.5 RPM. I'm gonna guess that it's something to do with the Y split cable, and I'm not too concerned because it's only happened the once. Yeah, so let's look at that temperature graph. It's just a straight line. 20 minutes is there. Oof. Oh, just where that bump is 20 minutes ago. Which is about when I started recording. Yeah, and it's just remained completely steady. Alright, well, maybe I'll throw one more task at it just for the sake of curiosity. So, let's jump to that. Okay, so here we've got a Blender animation loaded up, and I'm just going to render one frame at a ridiculously high resolution. So it was 1080p and 500%, so 5 times 1080p, whatever that is the resolution that we're going to go for. And we've got the device set to CPU, so it is definitely going to be using the CPU. Let me just think, is there anything else I need to do, and that'll be fine. Let's go. I'm also not remotely logged in. I turned off the remote login. Yes, we're right up to the... Oh, my mouse. This is why I remotely log in, because the mouse for this computer is a bit glitchy sometimes. So yeah, the CPU is maxed out there. There we go, it's just managed to push over 60 degrees. The things I'm noticing are here, where the pinky purple area is, and that's the temperature. I'm also noticing that it's not dropping below 4 gigahertz, which is what it's set to. It's set to 4 gigahertz, and it's not dropping it down to compensate for any temperature, which is what I noticed it was doing when it was reaching 89 degrees centigrade. It was dropping the clock on doing a test like this. Also, I noticed that the fan control, which is here, is only managing to reach just over 50%. Why not 100%? I'm pretty certain that that is because of the Y splitter cable that splits the two headers to each fan. So once the animation finishes rendering, as soon as it does that, it'll actually render a stroke layer around the edges and the contours of the model, which is another CPU intensive task. So once this finishes, don't expect the temperature to drop straight away. Well, I'm really impressed. It's had a sustained task here, which has just reached over 4 minutes of constant CPU intensive activity, and at most it's reached 60 degrees without any CPU throttling. Okay, so it's finished the main render and now it's doing the stroke rendering. The CPU activity has gone up again and it's come back down, and now we have the stroke on there. So 5 minutes and 10 seconds is what that took, and only one core has managed to go above 60, and that was only 61 degrees. I know they're still pretty high numbers, so people get it down to 30, 40 with some crazy water cooling setup, but this is extremely impressive. I've saved 30 degrees just by putting this in and using their thermal grease. Well, that's it. The numbers speak for themselves. If you're thinking about buying it, just get it, because it does work. It is so much better, not just a little bit, not like 5-10 degrees. I've got a 30 degree improvement. So, you know, and I was worried that actually I had a bad processor. You know, the Silicon Lottery, the Intel i7-2600k here, there's some good ones, there's some bad ones. I bought mine second hand in a bundle, motherboard, CPU and RAM. I was concerned that these had been selected as being bad processors, so palm them off cheap, and I did get a really good deal on it. So maybe that's true to some extent, I don't know. Regardless, let's say I have had a bad CPU. This has managed to take off 30 degrees. So I'm really chuffed, happy, it's good. Well, thanks for watching. I hope this helped you to make your purchase. If you want to see me do anything else and review other stuff, message, leave a comment, whatever. And don't forget, if you like this video, please click the like button, subscribe, and if you really like the videos, like really like them, press the bell icon and you'll get a notification for when I upload my next video. I mean, it might not be a review video, it could be me playing BeatSaber or something, I don't know. But just press it anyway. I don't know what it looks like when it comes up on the phone, somebody's pressed the notification button. I get subscribe buttons, somebody subscribed to you, but if somebody presses the bell, I don't know. So press it anyway, and if I get a notification and it's got your name in it, I'll name drop you. There you go. Thanks for watching. Cause that recording was exactly 10 minutes. Like exactly 10 minutes. I looked over and it's 10 minutes. That's crazy. And of course, there's one more thing that needs to be done. Arguably one of the most important parts of the entire process. Oh, it's metal. It's metal and it's shiny. And it's got tape made by 3M.